Long before the rise of the Galactic Empire and the fall of the Jedi Order, the galaxy was a much different place. It was a time when the Old Republic ruled, a vast and ancient government that spanned the stars, bringing stability and peace for thousands of years. It was a time when the Jedi Order was at its peak, a shining symbol of hope, light, and the guardianship of peace. But as with all things in history, peace did not last forever. The Old Republic's story is not one of unbroken tranquility, but of cycles of war, betrayal, and the gradual erosion of what was once an unshakable foundation. The Old Republic was founded thousands of years before the rise of the Empire, and its history stretches far back into the distant past. Its creation was driven by the will to unite the fractured and war-torn planets of the galaxy under a single banner. At the time, the galaxy was filled with countless species and countless systems, each with their own rulers and governments, often at odds with one another. But over time, the need for unity and order gave birth to the Republic. The Senate was established to serve as the central body of governance, with representatives from all corners of the galaxy coming together to pass laws and make decisions. The Jedi, a group of force-sensitive individuals, served as the Republic's peacekeepers, maintaining balance and offering guidance to those in need. The Jedi were not simply warriors, nor were they religious zealots as some later generations would come to view them. In the days of the Old Republic, the Jedi were scholars, diplomats, and peacekeepers. They sought to balance the Force in their lives, striving for harmony with the universe. The Jedi Code, which was passed down through the generations, taught them to avoid attachment, passion, and anger. To the Jedi, the Force was a power that transcended personal desires, and the true strength of a Jedi was not in their lightsaber, but in their wisdom and discipline. The Jedi stood as the first line of defense against the darkness that sought to tear the galaxy apart. But even the Jedi, with all their knowledge and power, could not prevent the rise of the Sith. The Sith had always been a dark presence in the galaxy, an opposing force to the Jedi, fueled by hatred and a thirst for power. The Sith were not always a single entity. Their origins lay in the distant past, with a species known as the Sith, who came from the red, desolate world of Korriban. The Sith species were powerful and deeply attuned to the dark side of the Force. But it was not until the ancient Sith Lords began to emerge, humans who were corrupted by the dark side of the Force, that the true danger of the Sith would be realized. The Jedi and the Sith were locked in an eternal battle, one that would shape the history of the galaxy for millennia. During the early days of the Republic, the Sith Lords were largely confined to their homeworld of Korriban, isolated from the broader galactic conflict. But this isolation was not to last. The Sith, always driven by their hunger for power, sought to expand their influence, and they launched a series of wars against the Republic. The Republic's military forces, led by the Jedi, fought back against the Sith invasion, but the Sith were not easily defeated. The wars between the Jedi and the Sith would become legendary, with entire star systems caught in the crossfire. Both sides would claim victories, but at great cost, leaving scars on the galaxy that would never fully heal. One of the most significant events in the Old Republic era was the Great Hyperspace War. It was during this time that the Sith, under the leadership of the Dark Lord Naga Sadow, launched a full-scale invasion of the Republic. The war was devastating, stretching the Republic's resources and forcing the Jedi to fight on multiple fronts. The Sith, with their vast fleet and formidable dark powers, were a formidable enemy. But the Republic's forces, bolstered by the leadership of the Jedi, were able to push the Sith back, despite the heavy losses. The war ended in a great victory for the Republic, but it came at a tremendous cost. The Sith were forced to retreat, but their influence was not gone. The Republic had won, but the scars of the war remained, and the Jedi Order would continue to watch for the dark side's return. It was not long after the Great Hyperspace War that the Sith made another attempt to strike against the Republic, this time in the form of the Sith Empire. The Sith, led by the powerful Sith Lord Revan, returned with a vengeance. Revan had once been a Jedi Knight, but his lust for power and his hunger to understand the dark side of the Force led him down a treacherous path. Revan's fall was both tragic and dangerous. His quest for knowledge led him to uncover ancient Sith teachings, which he used to form a new Sith Empire. His rise to power was a shock to the Republic, as Revan was not only a brilliant strategist but also a powerful Force user. His Sith Empire, which stretched across the galaxy, challenged the very foundations of the Republic. Revan's reign was marked by brutal conquest, and it took the combined might of the Jedi and the Republic's military forces to stop him. But in the end, Revan was betrayed by his own apprentice, Darth Malak, who took control of the Sith Empire after Revan's defeat. The aftermath of Revan's fall left the Republic in a state of turmoil. The Jedi were left to deal with the consequences of Revan's betrayal, and the galaxy was left reeling from the devastation caused by the Sith Empire. But even in the wake of Revan's fall, the Sith would not be silenced. They would continue to haunt the Republic, always waiting for the next opportunity to strike. The threat of the Sith would loom over the galaxy for centuries to come. The Jedi, while still powerful, were not always able to prevent the darkness from rising again. It was during this time that a new Sith Lord, Darth Bane, emerged. Bane's vision for the Sith was one of survival and strength. He believed that the Sith had been doomed by their constant infighting, and that the Sith could only survive if they were unified under a single, powerful master. Thus, Bane created the rule of two. There would always be two Sith, one master and one apprentice. The master would teach the apprentice, and when the apprentice became strong enough, they would challenge the master for the right to rule. This new structure would ensure that the Sith remained strong, and that no Sith would ever become complacent. The rule of two fundamentally changed the Sith Order. No longer would the Sith be a fractured, disorganized group. Instead, they would operate in secrecy, plotting and scheming from the shadows. The Jedi would never know when the next Sith Lord would rise. And rise they did. The Sith would continue to seek out new apprentices, new methods of gaining power, and new ways to bring down the Republic. They would continue their war against the Jedi, driven by a deep-seated hatred and a desire for domination. But even as the Sith plotted in the shadows, the old Republic continued to struggle with its own internal issues. The Senate, once a beacon of hope and unity, began to fracture as corruption and greed took root. The Republic, once a shining example of democracy and peace, began to falter. The Jedi, who had once stood as the guardians of the Republic, were caught in a difficult position. Their loyalty to the Republic was being tested, and as the galaxy grew more unstable, they were forced to make difficult decisions. It was a time of uncertainty, where the balance between light and dark seemed to teeter on the edge of destruction. As the Republic continued to unravel, the shadow of the Sith grew ever closer. But despite the endless struggles and wars, there was still hope. The Jedi, though imperfect, continued to fight for peace. The Republic, though flawed, remained a symbol of democracy. And as long as these ideals persisted, the galaxy had a chance. Though the Sith would rise again and again, their dark shadow would never fully extinguish the light. Even in their darkest hours, the people of the galaxy would stand against them, united by the hope that peace would one day return. As time passed, the story of the old Republic continued to evolve, shaped by countless battles, alliances, betrayals, and moments of heroism. The galaxy was a vast and ever-changing place, full of infinite possibilities and dangers. The struggle between the Jedi and the Sith was only one part of this larger narrative, and as the Republic continued to grow, so did the complexities of the galaxy's many factions. The old Republic, despite its many victories over the centuries, was far from invulnerable. Its vastness often made it difficult to govern, with various species and systems seeking greater autonomy and freedom from the central authority. The Senate, once a symbol of unity, became increasingly corrupt as power struggles and greed took root within the halls of Coruscant. The Republic's leaders became less concerned with the welfare of the galaxy and more concerned with their own power and influence. This growing sense of political decay made it harder for the Republic to effectively respond to the many challenges it faced, and over time, this disillusionment with the Senate would lead to fractures within the Republic itself. The Jedi, who had long been the guardians of peace, found themselves increasingly pulled into political conflicts. The Jedi Council, once the final authority on matters of the Force, struggled with how to navigate the complexities of galactic politics. Many Jedi felt that they could no longer simply stand by and watch as the Republic faltered. This division would become more pronounced in the coming years, as certain Jedi began to question the very nature of the Order and their role in the galaxy. A few, like the Jedi Knight Revan, believed that the Jedi should do whatever was necessary to protect the galaxy, even if that meant using darker methods. The rise of Revan marked a significant turning point in the history of the Old Republic. Once a promising young Jedi, Revan's search for knowledge led him down a dangerous path. Revan was a brilliant tactician and a powerful Force user, but his obsession with defeating the Sith pushed him to the brink. His fall to the dark side would change the course of the Republic's history, as he became the leader of a Sith Empire that threatened to swallow the galaxy whole. But even as Revan embraced the dark side, there were moments of doubt. He began to realize that the very methods he used to defeat the Sith were corrupting him. This internal conflict between his desire for power and his longing for redemption would come to define his journey. Revan was eventually betrayed by his own apprentice, Darth Malak, and after his defeat, he sought to redeem himself, becoming one of the few Sith to ever return to the light. Revan's legacy would live on, not only as a symbol of both Sith ambition and redemption, but also as a reminder of the thin line that separated the light and dark sides of the Force. His story would have a profound impact on future generations, as the lessons learned from his rise and fall shaped the path of many Jedi and Sith that came after him. The Republic, though scarred by the destruction wrought by Revan's Sith Empire, would continue to stand, its people determined to rebuild and restore order in the wake of the chaos. However, the shadow of the Sith was not so easily dismissed. The Sith, ever patient and ever driven by their hunger for power, would always find a way to resurface. Darth Bane, a Sith Lord who rose from the ashes of Revan's empire, sought to reshape the Sith Order and ensure its survival. Bane's vision for the Sith was one of discipline, where only the strongest would rise to power. He instituted the rule of two, one master and one apprentice, ensuring that the Sith would never again be weakened by infighting. The rule of two created a more dangerous, more cunning Sith Order, one that would plot and wait for the perfect moment to strike. For centuries, the Sith would remain in the shadows, hidden from the galaxy at large, but always watching, always waiting. Meanwhile, the Republic tried to rebuild and recover from the wars and betrayals of the past. The Jedi, despite their internal struggles, remained a beacon of hope. They were called upon to fight back against numerous threats, not just from the Sith, but from pirate fleets, rogue governments, and galactic separatists who sought to dismantle the Republic from within. The Jedi remained the stalwart defenders of peace, but their strength was often tested in ways that forced them to question their own ideals. The rise of Darth Sidious in the later years of the Republic marked the culmination of the Sith's long-brewing plans. Sidious, like many Sith before him, had waited for the right moment to strike. He spent years manipulating galactic events from behind the scenes, building his power and plotting the fall of the Republic. Sidious was a master of deception, using the Jedi's own code against them. He hid in plain sight, using the facade of a politician to mask his true identity. Under the guise of a public servant, Sidious orchestrated the Clone Wars, a massive conflict that pitted the Republic against a separatist movement led by Count Dooku and the Confederacy of Independent Systems. The war, which tore apart the galaxy, was part of Sidious's plan to weaken the Republic and the Jedi, setting the stage for his ultimate rise to power. As the Clone Wars raged across the galaxy, the Jedi were called upon to serve as generals and leaders in the Republic's army. This role, one of military leadership and strategic decision-making, further strained the Jedi's connection to their ideals of peace. The Jedi, once purely defenders of harmony, now found themselves drawn into the very conflicts they had sworn to avoid. It was a time of great uncertainty, where the lines between light and dark seemed to blur. Many Jedi struggled with their role in the war, and some, like Ahsoka Tano, would leave the Order, feeling disillusioned with the Jedi's growing militarism. Ultimately, Sidious's machinations came to fruition. With the aid of his apprentice, Darth Vader, he executed Order 66, a command to the clone troopers to betray and kill the Jedi. The Jedi Order was nearly wiped out, and the Republic fell, replaced by the Galactic Empire. Sidious declared himself Emperor, and the Sith ruled once more. But even in the darkest moments, there were those who resisted. The spark of rebellion, kindled by the last remaining Jedi, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the birth of the Rebel Alliance, would one day lead to the Sith's downfall. The tale of the Old Republic, the rise and fall of the Jedi and the Sith, is a tragic one. It is a story of how ambition, power, and the pursuit of control can shape the galaxy for better or worse. And it is a reminder that no matter how dark the galaxy becomes, the light of hope can always return, even in the most unexpected of places. From the earliest days of the Republic to the end of the Clone Wars, the legacy of the Old Republic continues to echo through the stars, leaving behind stories of heroism, betrayal, and the enduring struggle between the light and dark sides of the Force.